Welcome to Well Good Movies, the podcast for film fans by film fans. Every episode we look at films old and new to choose what should be preserved for all time in our movie vault. With lively topics, big questions and crazy challenges to entertain us and our guests, we always look to have fun by giving you the topics worth discussing and the movies worth watching, even if there are some duds along the way. But don't just take my word for it. Here's a preview of what to expect in today's episode.
At last, I found somebody who can actually meet me in terms of harshness.
Honestly, I just think it shows that Steve still hasn't watched Lion King. The Chicken Little is his favourite Disney movie.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Are you not entertained? I am your father. Wait! Here's Johnny. I'll be back.
It's not a car, it's a silly movie boy!
Well, good movies.
Hello and welcome to Well Good Movies, the podcast that gives you the topics worth discussing and the movies worth watching. Except this week, it's more like the rides worth experiencing. I am your host, David Osger, and yes, we all love a challenge, and for anybody who listens to this show often, you'll know that we love a challenge on this podcast too. And this week, we have got a very cool and a very different challenge for ourselves and our guests. We had a challenge on our last episode, which was quite an ordeal going through the 50 Shades franchise, so we felt we had to cleanse our souls this week by going the complete opposite of the smut of 50 Shades and going into the wonderful world of Disney, which makes everyone feel a lot happier and a lot better about themselves. So we're not just talking about Disney, because anybody who has listened to us before knows that that's an area we often like to talk about, and they're different sort of segments of franchises. And one area we've never talked about before are the theme parks, because that is becoming a much bigger part of film and television today as well. Just ask Martin Scorsese. So we'll get on with the show and tell you what our challenge is a bit later on. But first of all, I'll introduce everyone that I am joined by today. So just like when you're at Disney World and you go and have your meet and greet with the evil villain, I am joined once again by my co-host, the evil Lord, Craig McDonald.
Can I just say, I'm very glad you described the nature of this episode in terms of the rides, because when you just left it as the rides worth experiencing, I thought, we're not going through 50 Shades again, are we?
Well, we'll definitely have some entertainment ideas from our guests today. That's why we brought them on. So they have joined us before. The last time was on an Endgame special. So our first guest, who usually joins us for all things theatrical and animated, is our good friend, Kelly Bishop. Hello, Kelly.
Hello, my lovelies. How are we doing?
We're doing good. How are you feeling for today? Are you ready to go to a theme park?
I'm excited. I've done what I refer to as going full Hermione Granger with it. May have gone far too deep into this, but I'm very excited.
We love the detail. And also joining us today is somebody who's also been on a Disney episode before. He also joins us for all things sporty and all things bizarre. So it is, of course, Stephen Jones. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, guys. How are we?
Very good. So same question to you, Steve. How are you feeling towards today? If we're going with sports metaphors, what's the feeling in the changing room?
The feeling in the changing room right now is they're a bit worried. They're worried that the idea might be too good that Disney might be on the phone tomorrow. No, I'm looking forward to it. It was really a fun challenge to sort of get your mind thinking of what would fit. So I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully I don't get sued.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thought on all of our minds. Definitely for music. I was like, I want to play some music in this. It's like, but like Willie in that Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, it's like, do you want to get sued? So unfortunately, we will not have the wonderful music of Disney over the top of our experiences today.
And people wondered why I didn't participate in this experiment.
So, without further ado, our challenge today is similar to what we have done before. We have had episodes which we have pitched ideas, and this will be quite different because we're not pitching movies like before. We talked all about working titles when a film has a working title when it's being made, so we pitched films based off working titles, the famous ones. Instead, today, we are going to pitch some rides that would go in Disneyland or Disney World, because what better time to talk about those theme parks when a lot of people in the world can't go to them right now. So it's also a big conversation and talking point as more films are compared to theme park rides these days as they become more cinematic and they start to go into theme parks. So we've seen it with Avengers, Harry Potter, The Simpsons, Disney, of course. They are now having a bigger presence at theme parks. So often movies are now adapted into rides at these big theme parks, and it's a big moneymaker for all of those companies. We've also seen, of course, within the past year, we've had a lot of headlines. Disney themselves had a ride adaptation of a movie coming out, which was Jungle Cruise, which has been delayed again, which hopefully we'll get within the upcoming year. And they also announced that they are redesigning their legendary ride Splash Mountain to fit Princess and the Frog, which is very fitting. So it got us thinking about when you have Disney classics that are transferred into rides. You obviously have the classics like the flying Dumbo carts. You have ones like Space Mountain, which have been the inspiration of many films as well. And yeah, so it's become quite a big thing. And of course, recently we've had Disney Plus, and that has quite a lot of content on there, including the Imagineering story and quite a lot of behind the scenes documentaries talking about the theme parks. So we wanted to delve into that world today. And like I said earlier, that's why it's not so much the movies worth watching, it is, the rides worth experiencing, because we're going to be pitching our own Disney rides. So it's going through all the fun stuff. What's going to happen when you queue up? What's happened when you get on the ride? What's going to happen when you get off and you're expected to pay £12 for a picture, all that kind of lovely stuff. So first of all, though, to transition from that, guys, I thought we would get into the mood of being in a theme park, of going through all the thrills and experiences of it. So I've got a little challenge for us to get in the mood for being in a theme park, okay? So each one of you is going to be on 2 rides. And I want you to tell me, because obviously this is a podcast, people can't see what's going on. You need to tell me what you would be feeling if you were on this ride. Let's get a feeling for what kind of person you are at a theme park. Are you like a roller coaster junkie? Are you a person who goes on the carousel? So try and guess the ride if you can. They're not all Disney ones, but tell me what you would be feeling if you were on this ride right now. And tell us a bit about what you see, etc. So are you ready?
Ready.
Bring it on. I like how I say bring it on like it's a game. Like it's something I can win. It's not.
Kelly, you're up first. And you got a good one for your first one. I'm glad you actually, this has already come up. So, we know we're on to a winner here. So here is, your first ride that you're on.
Oh, it's pure nostalgia. This is Peter Pan's Flight. It's a dark ride, so it's all enclosed, but it's just so pretty. It's slow enough that you can take everything in. It's not overly fast. It's not like coaster-like. It's just, memories from being a small child and wanting to fly on the ship that goes over London. It's just a pure moment.
It does look very magical, and they do a great job. But with the little miniatures and stuff, it's got such a charm to it. So I'm assuming you're feeling very safe and very cozy from that one.
So safe, so comforted.
Great. How about this one?
I'm not a coaster person. I don't mind them, but I have a feeling this one's going to have a very, very steep drop. Oh, no. Oh, that's upside down.
Do you know what ride this is, by any chance?
Is this? No, I don't think.
This is the Incredible Hulk, which is in Universal Studios.
Oh, there's some fog. That's intense. My stomach hurts thinking about it.
So would you have gone on this, or would you even be on this at all? Or would
Someone would have dragged me on this. Someone would have forced me onto it with them, and I'd scream the entire way round.
I would have been sick before we even took off.
Oh wow! Well,
I would have sworn a lot.
I love how David says sort of replicate your feelings as if you're on this ride. The moment it gets to like the up and twist, you go, oh no. I just have this image now of you out actually on a roller coaster.
Yeah, probably. Just, oh no,
acting like that cat from like the Vines, like, oh no.
That's on the way up, and then it just screams from there on in.
So, next up, you saying about whether you'd be sick, Steve. So, we've got your one, your 2 rides. So, let's see what you've got. Explain what you're seeing.
Pretty much darkness. This looks terrifying.
Lies beyond the 5th dimension, beyond the deepest, darkest corner.
Is this?
I'd be quite.
It's very scary.
Yeah. I'd be quite scared right now. I'd be probably one eye open, one eye closed. Oh, okay.
Is Twilight Zone Terror?
Yeah, this is Tower of Terror, which is in Hollywood Studios in Disney World, Florida. So it's basically a what they call it, like a free drop ride. So you're sort of going up and down.
There's a lot of arm movement. I'd be quite scared on this ride.
Yeah. So are you a big person for that feeling of being dropped? Because that's all this is. This is just up and down, up and down. Opposed to
I prefer rides like this to like crazy coasters with crazy tracks. I like the feeling of being scared on a ride, but not actually seeing something visually. And this is what I feel like. You're not having like animatronics like forced in your face. So I think this would be quite fun.
I can't remember if I've told this story before. I feel like I may have, but I'm not sure if on the show or not. I went on the ghost train once, and the only thing that they had was a guy in a wolf mask running around all parts of the train, just every now and then just going up to people and just like shaking them, being like, "Rrr!" That's
God.
all it was. It was like one of those really cheap sort of county fair sort of thing. And it was just this guy running around in the darkness.
Do you know what they were probably going for? Is that you get off the ride, it's just like, that guy in the wolf mask was scary, and they're like, what guy with the wolf mask? So Steve, this is your next one.
Oh my word.
Alright.
Okay. That's fine. It's going quite slow. But I feel like there's a big, massive drop coming up. Oh, okay. Yeah, here we go.
Does this look familiar to you, Steve?
It's awkward.
Yeah.
Shit.
It's Megaphobia from your...
It's Megaphobia. It's Megaphobia from my
The only
hometown.
terrifying thing about the ride is that it's all made of wood.
It's the exact thing you want to hear when you're on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's like shaking and snapping. And
Also, bear in mind, this is based in Wales, where it rains a lot. That wood, I'm surprised, is holding up well.
Let's all focus on the good parts of theme parks anyway. And I'm sure Craig is going to have a lot of fun now with his experience of, like rides and heights, etc., as he experiences the fun and joys of theme parks. So Craig, here's your ride.
This is fine. Everything is fine. Hang on, what is that? That's a lot of spins. Oh no.
that's somewhere different. You don't have to worry about that one.
Okay.
Ominous turn.
Well,
of the corner.
we're about to go down, and there we go. What? Oh, there we go. What? What's going on? Oh, Jesus. So yeah, we've just been plummeted underground for all of 5 seconds.
So that is Oblivion from Alton Towers, which pretty much just stops you on the verge of a sheer drop, so you can look at the doom you're about to fall into, and then go into that steaming hole in the ground.
Oh, so it's one of the ones where they literally stop you before. Yeah, those are the worst. Those are absolutely the worst. As far as I'm concerned, just get it over and done with. Don't force me to like look and contemplate my death, right? I know they say your life flashes before you in the last 5 seconds before you die. Don't turn it into like 15.
Craig had a bad enough time like watching Gravity in the cinema, never mind, Oblivion and in a theme park. But you'll be happy to know, Craig, you got something a lot slower pace for your second ride.
I don't trust you. I was right not to trust you.
No.
The hell is this?
Smaller
This is
world.
It's a small world.
Kelly should know. She went on it 4 times in a row to get out of the
I've
rain.
been haunted by this.
So you're telling me
It's a
you've
lot
been
of-
on...
It's just a lot of multinational animatronics.
It's a
You've
lot
been
of
on this
dogs.
ride 4 times, like 4 different times.
4
No,
times in a row.
Oh my word, this is unreal.
Was it kind of like you got to
Raining.
the end and they were like, you go off, but you're like, nope, let's go
No
again.
one else was queuing for it. So
Sorry.
we just
I'm
got
not
back on.
surprised. These dolls are terrifying.
It looks like an acid trip.
Also,
And the
can I
song is so high pitched and happy. Like,
can I say I love the fact that David opted not to give us audio for this one?
Exactly.
so
I
glad.
didn't want to get sued, but the song is incredibly catchy. So, if it does put it in your head, it's a small
I forgot about these little
after
can
all.
canning dolls.
It literally goes through.
That moon looks suspicious. That moon looks really suspicious.
So yeah, guys, are you in the theme park mood now? Are you feeling all, ready? You're all feeling a bit nauseous. You're feeling excited. You're feeling all the thrills of Disney World and many other theme parks around the world.
I've been coughing so much I'm almost sick. It's almost as if I'm there.
So in this one now, it's going to be a pitch from myself, a pitch from Kelly, and a pitch from Steve. And like our last pitch episode, this isn't going to be a competition. We're just going to be discussing them, talking about the pros and the cons, asking different questions, asking various safety concerns. Will your hair get stuck on a branch if you go around this, etc. And we do have a cool feature for this as well, because I thought that we had to have some form of unbiased voice to give their commentary on this. Somebody like Craig who isn't just looking for pure lunacy and wants to rag on us. So I've got a Disney aficionado who has given his thoughts on our pitches, as we earlier in the week sent some written pitches over to this person. So I'm very happy to announce that we have had some great responses from Dr. Sam Summers, who has a PhD in film and animation, and he is an expert on the Disnivirsity Podcast, in which at the moment they're only on Bambi, but they're going through every Disney animated feature and talking about the history and the details of them. I especially loved their Pinocchio episode, in which the host was talking about how disturbed he was by Pinocchio, as he had not seen it since he was a child, and I think everyone is there with him on that. And yeah, they also talk at the end of the episodes about, has it turned into a Disney ride? What was the history after the film? Did it have a sequel? What's its presence in the Disney parks, etc.? So Sam is somebody who is very accustomed to these sort of conversations, talking about, the Disney parks and talking about Disney films. And interestingly, which this will come up later, and I have to give him credit for this, but he has also written an academic book on Shrek. An academic analysis of Shrek, which is...
I need to read that.
Yeah, so check him out on Twitter, Sam Summers, and check out their podcast, which is Disnivirsity, which is on all good podcast outlets. So he'll be giving his opinion on our ideas as well. So yeah, we'll be going through each one of those. So who should go first? Luckily, Craig has some dice with him to decide who will be pitching first. So what are our options? I assume 1 to 6. This isn't some weird dice, is it?
Well, technically, David, it's a singular dice, which makes it a die.
Okay.
For reference, David also criticized me for having a dice. He said, and I quote, "Trust a Yu-Gi-Oh player to have some spare dice next to him."
Oh.
I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh in years, so that did feel a bit bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been playing too much Cluedo. I've had that double roll, in my mind for the dice part.
Yeah, roll off a cliff. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is, obviously, this is a 6-sided die. So what I'm going to do is, based on the order in which you joined the Soon Call, I'm going to allocate you 2 numbers. So that's David will get 1 and 4, Kelly will get 2 and 5, Stephen will get 3 and 6. So when it lands on one of those numbers, I will show you all which number it is, and that person will go first.
Oh.
Number 1.
Oh.
David.
Me first. Right. So the pressure's on. Okay, guys. So my idea for a Disney World ride is based off the animated classic Emperor's New Groove. And this ride is called Run Llama Run. So this would be featured at Adventureland in Disney World. Now, if you've seen the Emperor's New Groove, has everyone here seen the Emperor's New Groove? Steve?
I've partly seen it. I was more of a fan of the animated series. I know they did film.
Oh, yeah. Emperor's New School. Good choice. So, in the film Emperor's New Groove, there is a scene in which a song plays, which is just an orchestral track, which is called Run Llama Run, which is what this ride is named after. So that song is incredibly catchy. If anyone doesn't know, it's like do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. So I want you to have that in your head as you're imagining this ride. So that song appears in the moment of the film in which Pacha and Cusco, who's still a llama at this stage, decide to go back to the palace and try and find a way to turn him back into a human from a llama. So they run from Pacha's village, and then Kronk and Yzma, who throughout the film have been chasing them and trying to find Cusco to kill him so that Yzma can be the empress, get wind of what's happening, and they go chasing after them. At this point, we see an animated map in which you get a little lines for Cusco and Pacha, red lines, and then we get little purple arrows for Kronk and Yzma. And we're seeing them go along the map. We're seeing them like cross like torn down bridges, and then eventually thunder and lightning hits. Kronk and Yzma fall down, and Cusco and Pacha just get up to the Emperor's Palace without any problems. So this ride is basically going through the journey of both Pacha and Cusco and Yzma and Kronk. The idea is that you would have, this would be a 2-track ride. So you can have 2 routes. So you're going to have, the entrance to this is going to be look like the Emperor's Palace, which is like the gold big head. And the idea is that you would either take the Cusco route or the Yzma route. And depending which route you go on will change your experience for the ride. So if you take the Cusco route, you're going to have a much more like quick, fast, exhilarating experience. So it's more for the sort of like speed junkies. If you go on the Yzma route, you're going to have more of a chaotic, more darker, crazy experience with lots of turns and lots of sort of like in the dark moments. Because the idea is that, as we'll discuss later, it's the journey that both of these characters take to get to the palace. So a bit about the design. When you're waiting to go through all of these areas, obviously the Emperor's New Groove is based a lot on, the country of like Peru and the Inca Empire. So the architecture and design and everything would be very much fitting with that. But you're also going to have, because this film, it's one of my personal favorites because it's so funny, it's so kooky, it's got so many weird and wonderful moments in it. And you're going to have that in the ride. You're also going to have a bit of that in the experiences in and outside of the ride. So when you're waiting through the line, you're going to experience moments like that. So in the Cusco line, for example, you're going to see him and Bucky the squirrel, and he's going to do the whole hit the road, Bucky, and then you're gonna, as you're walking over one of the segments, maybe you can see out like one of the bridges or the windows, you can see some 3D jaguars like chasing Cusco. So it's kind of like you're walking through the film, walking through the story, and you're experiencing those moments. In the Yzma one, for example, you would be walking through her lab, and you'll have a big projection on the walls of her going, "How shall I do it? I know, I'll turn him into a flea, a harmless little flea." And you'll have that entire animated section on the walls where he's a flea and she's going to smash it with a hammer. And yeah, it'll be very, very fun. So you'll have all of that stuff. When you get to the ride itself, so obviously everyone's gone through their separate lines. You kind of, go over to either the Cusco cart or the Yzma cart, and you start off from the same position. Now, the Yzma cart, so if you know the map I'm talking about, what you have like a little llama symbol on the map for Cusco and Pacha, and you have like a little Yzma's, it's a sedan chair or a palanquin, apparently. So Yzma's one looks like her little sedan chair, which is carried by Kronk. So the idea with Cusco's one is that you'll have like a train of about 10 carts. They can fit 2 people in each one, and they'll interchange. You'll have like red ones, which look like Pacha's sort of like silhouette, and you'll have llama ones, which look like Cusco's silhouette. The Yzma ones, you'll have just one Kronk at the front, so whoever gets to be in the front gets to be in the Kronk silhouette, which is purple, and everyone else is in a sedan chair Yzma tent designed cart, and it's the same thing, 10 carts, 2 people in each one. The ride will start off, as I mentioned earlier, you'll get that classic song, the Run Llama Run song will start to play, and you'll start by going up the hill, which they begin. And as it gets like do 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 do, that's when you sort of like have like a bit of like a drop for the first bit. Then there'll be like another little smaller drop. If you look at the map, it's like another little hill. And at this point, this is where Pacha and Cusco cross the gap in the mountain because the bridge has been taken out. But at that point, Kronk and Yzma decide to sprout the wings from Yzma's sedan chair, at which point they get hit by thunder and lightning and they just drop down, and we never see what happens to them after that. So this is the part in which the two rides would have gone down the same drops, but they'll now divert at this point. So as soon as you hear thunder and lightning, the Yzma cart will go in a different direction, and the Cusco cart will go in another one. So for the Cusco one, it's going to be very simple. It's kind of going to just go down a very sort of like fast and quick path. This is a dark ride, by the way, so it's all indoors, and the idea is just like the queues, you kind of see the story as you go along. So for Cusco, you would be sort of going through like lots of like jagged mountains, and then eventually you'd get to like the gold of the Emperor's Palace, until eventually you get to Yzma's lab, in which the two routes join again. For the Yzma route, you've had the thunder and lightning, which indicates that you've been struck by thunder and lightning. So you then have a really sheer drop, which is then going to drop into darkness. And basically, you're not going to see what's going to be going on. You're just going to be like twirling around in different twirls. You're going to be taking jagged turns. And throughout all of that, you're going to hear the audio of like Yzma and Kronk going mad with each other from throughout the film. Like moments like when he bursts into a tent, like, Yzma! And she's like, what? And, you know, all of those fun moments are going to be happening. You know, her saying like, are you speaking to that squirrel? All of that's going to be happening as if they're arguing, as if when you're in this dark, chaotic place. And then they'll turn up at the same place that the Cusco cart is in, which is in Yzma's lab. So the idea is, if you've seen the film, when Cusco and Pacha get to the potions cupboard, Kronk and Yzma arrive in the film, and Cusco says, how did you get here before us? And Yzma goes, I don't know. How did we get here, Kronk? And then Kronk just has his map and says, I don't know. By all accounts, it doesn't make any sense. And the map just shows that they just dropped down from the thunder and lightning, and then who knows where they went. So the idea is that the Yzma route is like this dark, chaotic route, which you can't see what's happening, you don't know where you are, but that's somehow how they got to that palace. So we still maintain the legacy of the joke in that way. But at this point, you would sort of see that play out as you're going through the lab. So both trains will be going through the lab. You'll go through some pink smoke at some point, and you get to your final drop. And this final drop, you'll stop before you get to it. You're going to see that there's a giant basin in front of you, at which point you'll have an animatronic cow come out and say, I've been turned into a cow, can I go home? At which point you hear Yzma say, you're excused, the cow will leave, and then you will drop into the basin, which is the basin which leads to the palace exterior, the palace, which is the nose in the film. And then you arrive back in the starting position. So you've gone through like the finale, the big, ending of the film. Obviously, after that, you have like Yzma and Cusco fighting. So maybe you'll see that on the screens as you're leaving the ride, etc., and going into the gift shop. You'll have like Perfect World playing over the top, like the Tom Jones reprise, and maybe you'll see moments from like the happy ending. And also, what I like is that at the beginning of this ride or at the end, for little kids, you'll have somebody dressed up as Kronk with a animatronic Bucky the Squirrel and a few junior chipmunks, and you can have your child learn Squirrel with Kronk. So if they're too small to go on the ride, you can leave them and learn Squirrel with Kronk and Bucky. Or if you just come off the ride and you're like, you know what, I'm in the mood for Emperor's New Groove, you can go learn Squirrel with Kronk and Bucky, and such classic lines as, did you take my acorn? And all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that is Run Llama Run. Questions?
Thoughts?
The one that's like sticking out with me is the film gives us one very ride-worthy moment.
Yep, I know what you're going to say. Go on.
Yeah, like, pull the lever, Kronk.
This is a part of it as well. So when you are, I said before about when you're in the dark and stuff like that, you're going to hear lines of audio, and when you're doing the Cusco route, the same thing will happen. You'll hear like Pacha and lines from the film as that happens. So when you get close to the lab, you will hear Cusco say, why does she even have that lever? And so you will get an element of that, and you'll hear, because Cusco and Pacha get into the roller coaster of her ride to get to the lab, you will hear the hool before they get into there. You'll hear, please keep all arms and legs in the ride. So you will hear that bit. So you will hear reference to that. You just won't hear it from the point of view of Yzma and Kronk, which I agree is unfortunate, but just because of the story placement, it just couldn't be there.
I'm surprised you don't use it to start the ride.
Yeah, that was where I thought.
Yeah, well,
Because I
again,
feel like,
Start
because I think the thing with this ride is that you obviously want there to be equal reason for people to go on both tracks, right? Otherwise, it looks a bit dark if everyone just wants to go on like the Yzma and Kronk track and just not on the Pacha and Cusco.
yeah,
So obviously, one of the joys of having dual track rides is the fact you can look over at the other train and be like, "Ha, what are you in for?"
yeah.
You need
Well,
to have that balance. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking.
The idea was, because again it's a dark ride, and because you would have Yzma and Kronk more like in the dark, I was like, well, you're not likely to be able to see the other one. So with my like drawing, I've made it so it's a lot more like two routes. You wouldn't overlap that much. And I was thinking that, like in water parks, when you have like the option of like two slides, which are kind of like intertwining, or you have like four slides, and there's always that one slide, which is like quicker to get onto because it's not like the big basin one. I think it's okay if the Kronk and Yzma one is the more busy one, because you can always be like, oh, we'll just go in the Cusco route because it's going to be the easier, quicker one to get on. And that's why it's the quicker, faster ride. But because also in the film, it's the quicker, faster route for the characters. So I think that would be just kind of be embraced by the ride, is that that's going to be the quicker route. And it's also maybe like an age thing and stuff like that. If people just want to go on the more simplistic, quick, fun route, they can go there with the more smaller kids. But if you don't like the idea of being in the dark and being twisted and turned, then maybe the older kids would go on the Yzma and Kronk route.
I definitely like the thing of having two parts of the ride, though. But so, like, if you say you got a mission, would it only count to go on one? So to go on two of them, you'd have to do like two rides of it. You wouldn't just get that experience with one. So you could
Would you have to
finish
buy
one
two
route
fast passes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think that you'd get the experience with both of them because they have the same opening and the same ending. So the fact that, again, that's why I did want to have Pull the Lever Crunk to start the ride, because I liked the idea of having that music, because this is placed in Adventureland, then I wanted to big up that adventure. So having that like iconic like music track that plays as the chase scene happens and the map bit happens. So like one thing which I didn't mention as well is as you're going through, you'll see the dots of the map on the side. So like for Yzma's route, you'll see like little purple arrows. For Cusco, you'll see like little red lines. So I think that will all envelop that. Whereas the more Pull the Lever Kronk stuff might be like when you're waiting for the ride in the queue and stuff. So like way I was saying about you'll see moments for the film played out. So while The Emperor's New Groove is so filled with loads of great moments and great gags and jokes, you can have a lot of that in the queuing system or at the end of it. Whereas the ride, obviously, you don't want to overfill with too many jokes, etc. Which one would you go on, Craig?
Probably the Chaos one, to be honest. Like, if you are going to plunge us completely in darkness and just have... I mean, also, what does this chaos exactly look like? You just keep saying chaos, but not actually what it would be.
Well, it is just the fact that this, again, because it's more family friendly, it's not going to be kind of like going upside down, because Disney really isn't into that kind of like, oh, let's, like twist people around like 1,000 times. So it's just going to be a kind of like Space Mountain. It'll be like a track ride, but it'd just be that you just don't know where you're going. So there'll be like sudden turns, or there might be like a corkscrew kind of thing. And then there might be like a part where you're sort of like on your side. And then you might go down like a straight path for a while and then just have a sudden jolt. So it's just a lot of turns and like corkscrews and stuff like that. And maybe a few more like up and down, drops, whereas the Cusco one would be more like speed, straight ahead kind of idea.
Yeah, with the whole like chaotic audio, it gives me like mild Charlie and the Chocolate Factory boat ride vibe. Just with like all of these overlying bits of audio.
Yeah.
Fun, I reckon.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea with the thunder and lightning is that you would see the strobe effect and then you drop down, and then at that point you would hear Yzma like, Kronk, like lots of like anger and that kind of stuff.
Also, just to clarify, 2 separate entry lines? Or are we one single entry that goes through and then diverts?
Yeah, I thought 2 separate entry lines because, again, it'll big up that aspect of, like, you could see it from the outside and be like, oh, the Cusco line is the more free one. Let's go and ride that one because it can be a time killer between food or whatever. So people can see which is the clearer ride. And they can also see from the outside that it might be, like, more little kids are waiting for the little, for the one route as opposed to the other, etc. So, yeah, that's what I thought would be an advantage in that part as well. One of my favorite jokes was I've been turned into a cow. Can I go home? So even though I loved the part where, Yzma shows the knife and she's like, were you expecting this? And they're like, no. And, I was like, but you couldn't really have that in a ride situation. Whereas I thought, well, if you're about to go down this giant basin, that's where you could maybe have this moment with the cow when she says, I've been turned into a cow. Can I go home? And then she just says, you're excused. I think it's just incredibly like the sense of humor of Emperor's New Groove to be like going up to the big final drop and you're like, oh my God, we're going to stop. And then you just stop. We're going to drop and then go, we've stopped. Why have we stopped? And then just this animatronic cow come out. Like, it would just be so random. And then once you say you're excused, then you would fall in and then you're back at the beginning.
Yeah, I think in that sense, it's been really well thought out of the way that it fits into the plot line of the story. And that's what makes it quite interesting to me, is that, like, I like little Easter eggs like that sort of make you think, that's a nice nod to the film. And I think it would work well in this situation for this ride.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued at the carriage designs because you said they're going to be based off of the silhouettes. Like, I'm just trying to picture exactly how they would necessarily look, because it seems quite cramped.
Think about it like kind of like, on a carousel you have the horses, but then you have like the bigger ones which are for like the father and child to sit in or whatever. So it's kind of like you can get like a horse silhouette shape on either end, but it's like a carriage design. So it'd be like that. It would be like a llama shaped silhouette on either end, and then like you'd be covered by a roof or something. Or it would just be open, so it would just be like the llama shape would be the door and everything like that, and maybe just the Yzma one has got like a little roof to symbolize the chair. So I'll read out Dr. Sam Summers' reaction to my ride. So for Run Llama Run.
A bit convenient that David is going to read out criticism of his ride.
Yeah, I love it. It is the most amazing ride that I have ever ridden, and I wouldn't go on any of the... No, I'm joking.
P.S. The part to include the cow was genius.
And I don't care what they said about the pull the lever comment.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Craig is wrong, and no. So what he says is very strong theming, and I'm a big fan of the 2 separate routes. You'll want to be careful, though, and I didn't plan this after I read this, I promise. It says Universal used to have a 2-route roller coaster called Dueling Dragons, where 2 trains would run at the same time. They had to scrap the idea when passengers kept getting injured or blinded by objects flying from one train into another, a cautionary tale. And I've ridden that roller coaster, and somebody did lose their sunglasses on it. So yeah, I'm just worried that somebody got hit by those sunglasses now.
The way that I always imagined it, based on what you were saying, is that when Yzma and Kronk go off in their other direction, I always assumed that was like another room.
Yeah, it kind of is. The rest that Sam had to say was that Emperor's New Groove is a favourite of mine, though, and Kronk and Yzma in particular, so you'll want as much dialogue from them as possible. Due to the sad passing of Eartha Kitt, she'll be unable to reprise the role, so I'd like to offer myself as a possible replacement. So Sam, if I ever make this ride, then I'll come to you. But yeah, I was mainly thinking of just having a lot of lines and stuff from the film rather than like newly recorded stuff, because you want to feel like you're in the story and in the film. But like Steve said earlier, there's also a TV series, so there's probably plenty of stuff you can like rip from if you needed extra dialogue and stuff like that. So yeah, that is Run Llama Run. Who's up next?
So by the law of the dice, the numbers have now shifted. Kelly will have 1, 3, and 5. Stephen will have 2, 4, and 6.
3? No.
6.
6.
Technically it's 3, it's just 2 of them.
Yeah.
So that's Steve.
This is me. So, are we all ready for this? Are you ready for this journey? Now, before I start, I just want to ask your opinion on the film. So the ride's going to be based on one of my favourite Disney animated films, Chicken Little. So I just want to know, what do you guys think about this film? What are your opinions? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know.
I do not want my opinions of that film.
It's been so long since I've seen it, but I remember being really creeped out by like the duck.
The ugly duckling, yeah.
Yeah.
I had only ever really witnessed it in like trailers, just like whenever I would watch one of the Disney films, I was like, I've seen this film through the trailer like a million times. But because I knew you were doing this, Steve, I actually like went and visited it. And yeah, I was like, this is incredibly insane and chaotic. And I can't believe how crazy this film is. But actually, it's the same director as Emperor's New Groove.
I remember looking at your letterbox, Dave, and being like, why has he watched Chicken Little? Like, what has possessed him? And now I know.
Like, since I was a kid, it's always been one of my favourite Disney Channel animation films, because maybe it's because of the weirdness and the wackiness of it, it just suits me. But I loved how the storyline sort of was crazy, and then it turned out that, the sky wasn't falling, or the sky was falling, it was just an alien invasion waiting to happen. It was all a bit wild, and
It's got a lot of parallels to Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off. So after, I was like, this makes total sense. Steve would love this.
Let me take you through the name of the ride. I've decided to call this Acorn Ascension. Now, it will be situated in Critter Country, which, it's one of the quieter places of Disneyland. It's sort of a place where the kids can go to sort of chill out. It's got Splash Mountain there, which is a big coaster for the theme park. Is like a 1 mile log ride that takes you on a journey through backwoods and swamps, and then you've got this sort of dramatic drop of like 52.5 feet. This ride's not going to be like that. It's going to be something different for the area, something where like not like specifically targeted at a younger generation, but something not as wild as that, just something to go against it. So my initial thoughts are to have this ride positioned somewhere near the woodlands of Critter Country. Because a big plot line of the story in Chicken Little is him thinking the world is ending, and an acorn hits him on the head in one of his earlier flashbacks from when he thought the world was ending, and the whole town thinks he's going crazy. They sort of ridicule him, they bully him, they do some nasty stuff to this chicken. It's pretty much animal abuse. And I thought I'd sort of like to make a nod to this through the design of the coaster. So I definitely want it set with a lot of oak trees around. I'll explain why. So the ride's going to feature 6 acorn-inspired carriages. So the carriages that you get on are meant to replicate acorns. So they can fit up to a maximum of up to 3 people inside. And this ride's actually I took inspiration from the Hollywood ride Rocket in Disneyland, Florida. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that ride. The design of it, that's what I've taken inspiration from. So I'll get onto the design now. So, we all know Chicken Little is about a chicken who strongly believes the world is ending after getting hit on the head with an acorn. The design of the coaster is going to play out 3 different parts of the story, all 3 key scenes. So you're going to have the original acorn scene, which is going to be created as the coaster reaches its highest point. This is a 20-feet coaster, so it's not exactly that high, but it's high enough. It's sort of tree height. That's what I wanted at that. As the carts reach that height, plush acorns will fall from the sky, and whoever finds the golden acorn will get a free meal at the Chicken Lickin' restaurant, which I'll get to after. So the next part of the film, incorporated into the coaster, is going to be the baseball scene. Now, this is when Chicken Little wins the big game for his school, and everyone loves him at the time. They're like, you're the best chicken in the world. And this is going to take place on the ground. So the coaster's going to go up, and then as it goes down, it's going to get to the baseball scene, where it's going to show the baseball pitch with animatronics, sort of made to resemble characters from the film, as they recreate the iconic scene on an endless loop. And then the third and final part of the ride is going to involve going underground. And now this is where we're going to get to the Alien Spaceship. The aliens are a massive part in the film, and their spaceship is very cool. And I thought it would be a nice sort of ending point. And the acorn cart is going to have small sections open at the top. Not crazy big, just like so these acorns from the first part can fit through. So they can expect the plush acorns to fit through there. And it's going to be made of a transparent material, so the rider can experience everything from the coaster. And each cart is going to have 3 individual lookout spots, which will provide for a great close-up experience for each rider. The outdoor parts of the ride will be decorated with giant oak trees, and they will house acorns. The other parts will be decorated from buildings from the film and have the set design exactly like the film itself. And I would also like to propose a water feature where the character Fish Out of Water could reside and entertain riders, because he is a big part of the film as well. Now, as riders reach the underground part, they will board on the Alien Spaceship, where it will get quite dark and scary. But as the riders come back up to the surface, Kirby, the cute and fluffy alien, will wave goodbye to the passengers and say something in his native tongue. He was a very weird part of the film, and I feel like you have to incorporate him into this coaster in some sort of way. Now, the music, this is where it gets interesting, because this is a film that had some bangers. I don't know if you guys remember the music from this film, but a lot of it is on my playlist. Shout out to Patti LaBelle, REM, all these class artists. So I'm going to have 3 different types of music for the 3 different stages of the coaster. So at the Acorn stage, the song One Little Slip, which was basically the opening for the film, is going to be played. As the coaster reaches the baseball scene, the song We Are the Champions by Queen is going to be played, because that was used in the film. And then as the final song that's going to be used is REM, It's the End of the World, It's the End of the World as We Know It, as they reach the underground stage, which is being played throughout the film. And then that got me to thinking, it's a great film, it's a good idea for a coaster, I think it'd be quite enjoyable, but what about the queue entertainment? This is, queue entertainment, you want to be entertained when you're waiting for this ride. So the pre-show is going to feature some sort of main characters from Chicken Little acting out their various parts of the film. I think one example I can give is the mayor, Turkey Lurkey, who always gets distracted by things. So the plan's going to be for him to go to people in the queue, engage in a conversation, then become distracted by something. Usually it's like pennies on the floor or something, which I think would give this sort of experience, it would make it more relevant to the film. And you could even you don't have to pick him. There's so many other characters you could choose. And then this is when I mentioned it earlier about the Chicken Licken restaurant, the food stores and merchandise, which, we want to make money. This is going to make some money. Now, there's going to be a restaurant situated near the coaster called the Chicken Licken Restaurant, a restaurant which would serve chicken-themed products, quite controversial considering this is a film about a chicken. Here are some examples. So we've got Chicken Little Wings, we've got the Chicken Little Burger, we've got the Chicken Little Big Burger, and there is also veg and vegan options. And then we've got the baseball carts. So these baseball-themed food carts will be available via the queue section, where it will serve things like hot dogs, nachos, and popcorn to really give it that baseball atmosphere. And then we've got Acorn Apparel, which is Chicken Little-themed clothing that can be bought from the shop afterwards, and it will also hold props from the original film, kind of, because it's animated, but it's going to be props that are made to look like the actual things in film. And there will also be a guided tour, which will be performed every 20 minutes, talking about how the film was made, some of the characters there, and just a little history of Chicken Little. And I have done a picture, but I don't really want to show it because I don't want to explain the monstrosity that has gone through my head here. So, yeah, that is my idea for Acorn Ascension. Let me know your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm intrigued about the acorns. I kind of get it when it falls down in the tree and you hold on to it like the golden acorn for the restaurant. But I didn't quite get the spaceship about the holes and like they can fit through the holes. I was like, what? Do you mean they put them in the holes so you've collected 10 acorns? Or is it like... Because you said they were at the top and I was like, what?
Imagine, so that you get a 20-foot ascension, which is like the average sort of height of an oak tree or of a tree. I didn't really like...
20 foot!
You went heavy on this acorn theme.
So, right, just imagine that, they're going to be going through trees at the first part.
Yeah.
And then there's holes at the top of this acorn carriage. And there's going to be plush acorns which rain down because Chicken Little gets hit on the head at the start of the film from one, and everyone thinks he's crazy.
But are they falling through those holes? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so they can fit through the holes, and whoever finds the golden acorn gets a free meal at the Chicken Licken restaurant. It's all
right.
No, I'm just thinking, surely moving on a moving object, it'd probably be hard enough to get an acorn as it is. Never mind through a hole as well.
just leave off the roof and try and grab an acorn even without the roof, the hole.
I was going to say, also, if the Doctor's concern about David's ride was the idea of potential falling objects, you have it built into your ride.
Even better, I just want to talk about, the costing of this. Essentially, you're giving every child a free teddy.
This is well true, but they're tiny acorns, and this is the catch. How many golden acorns are going to actually fit into these holes? This is a money making.
Okay, then how do you reset them at the end of the day?
That's what I had the image of, this giant ball pit at the bottom, and it captures where all the ones that don't get hit by the carts go below and then get sucked back up to go down again. But that's what I imagined. But
we've got an acorn assistant manager. He knows what he's doing. It's fine.
So I have a question about the queuing system, because at one point you said there's going to be a part where there would be like little food carts. Just checking, are they ones you could actually buy food from?
Yes.
Yeah,
All
because
right.
this is after the ride, isn't it?
So there's some before and there's some after.
All right, okay. Can I just say, literally encouraging people to eat food right as they're about to go on this ride, probably not the greatest idea in terms of like your janitorial stuff.
Craig has played a lot of theme parking.
The theme park tycoon.
Yeah.
I thought about this process and then I got to thinking about the money. And I thought, they're going to spend more money on this food. And then, like you said, they're going to be sick after and they're going to want more food. It's just going to make money for the park.
It made me think about in Disney World, though, because I was only there for like a day, so I didn't get to experience it. But I don't know what, usually, you might have Gaston's beer or whatever. But what happens to the characters who are animals? Have they got that in Disneyland? Because I'm kind of worried about a child going there and being like, Mummy, am I eating Chicken Little? Like, the fact that it would be like Chicken Little's chicken wings suggests that's his wings.
Yeah, I don't think any of the animals, like the animal films, have animal tie-in restaurants.
I hope not.
For that exact reason.
It's either that. Or I'm really looking forward to trying Bambi venison.
Oh,
But the thing is about
That'd be fun.
The beauty about Chicken Little is they've got all the right sort of animals. They've got turkeys, they've got ducks, they've got pigs, they've got fish. We could have a whole Chicken Little themed restaurant.
You've also got dogs. Like, are you opening this in Korea?
You could integrate with, like, I suppose Zootopia is the only one which might get away from it, because am I right in thinking that they're all vegetarians in that film, or like the prey?
They're meant to be vegetarian. Yeah, I think the predators are given like supplements.
Yeah, so maybe there could be some tie-in with that if they have done some sort of Zootopia-based restaurant, but with a lot of carrots and stuff.
Disney Japan, I think it is, are opening a Zootopia World. So we will find out at some point. Just on the topic of there being multiple characters, all of which very exciting. You mentioned having the characters in the queue. Are they going to be cast members or are they going to be animatronics?
So I was thinking this would be better as a cast member situation.
Right. Also, if I went on Acorn Ascension at different times of the day, would I meet a different member of the town?
Yeah, so we're going to have...
be the turkey mayor.
No, it's not always going to be Mayor Turkey Lurkey because he does need to take a break to deal with other political affairs. We're going to have, like I said, Fish Out of Water, who will be in water because he's got that little helmet that he wears. You've got Abby the Duck. You've got...
Hang on. So you're suggesting a member of the cast, a cast member in a fish costume is going to sit in a pool of water all day?
I just hope they don't have Foxy Loxy. Is that her name? Or Loxy?
Yeah, like Foxy Loxy.
Yeah, they can't have her. Kids are going to beat her up because she is a downright asshole in that film. Like, they can't have her there.
I really want to punch the dad.
Oh, I can't stand the dad. Just start believing your son more. Start doing more for him. Like, I'm getting passionate about this because he treats that son bad.
That's why I was thinking of Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off. I was like, what is with these films? And like the fathers, I was like, it's so weird. But I do like the idea with the music choices because the film is so of that era of like early noughties, like, yeah, kids love like REM and all the 3D films at that time. And that's some of the criticism thrown at Chicken Little, is that it didn't feel very Disney. It was very much like trying to be like other 3D animated films in which they were like throwing in pop songs. But I think kind of embracing that would be kind of fun for a kind of time capsule in Disneyland. It would be very different because the rest of it is all going to be kind of be our guest and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think with this idea, it was more sort of, what is my favourite animated Disney film? And it always comes down to being Chicken Little. And it actually has quite a bad review on Rotten Tomatoes and other review websites. And I'm sort of starting to see why. Like, the more we speak about it, it's sort of, like you said, it wasn't Disney. It wasn't a sort of typical Disney film, but I guess that's why I enjoyed it, because
it's also an ugly film.
It really is.
One of my big concerns about the designs of your ride, in that if you are going to be following like the actual aesthetic design of the film, some of it is just going to look a little bit ugly.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the negatives anyway, and that we had a negative response to the film, because I've got to say that Sam is a bit with us on this, Steve, so I'm sorry.
Be prepared.
Bring it. Let's see what Sam has to say.
I wasn't prepared to love this, as Chicken Little is by miles the worst film Disney has ever made. Since it's basically a transparent rip-off of Shrek, the ideal Chicken Little ride would be just Shrek 4D from Universal Studios, but with Chicken Little's face superimposed over that of the big green lad. The ride sounds fun though, lots of variation and heavy use of animatronics, which is a plus. My only suggestion would be that as the acorn carriage falls, it actually does land on Chicken Little's head, killing him in an instant. Incidentally, I do like the idea of the chicken licking restaurant, since it would let me pretend I'm eating the shrill little bastard.
Oh my god.
I didn't exaggerate any of that.
Oh, Sam, tell us how you really feel.
At last, I found somebody who can actually meet me in terms of harshness.
Honestly, I just think it shows that Steve still hasn't watched Lion King. The Chicken Little is his favourite Disney movie.
If you go on a ride and you get a free meal, it's a good ride, let's face it.
Again, nowhere near bringing up sexual connection there.
So, I want
get a good ride and a free meal. What not alike?
I want a real answer from all three of you before this is put to bed, because I'm pretty sure Disney aren't going to take this one on when I do send it to them. Would you take on this ride? Would you go on it?
Would I eat from any of the carts that you have going into this ride? No, I would not. Would I feel comfortable about the idea of acorns potentially dropping on my head just so that some small kids could get a free meal where they have to eat a beloved children's animated character? No, I would not. Would I go on this ride? Probably.
I'll go on it if it's a slow, fun little ride. If it's this big, chaotic, crazy, fast ride with all this crazy stuff happening, then no. But if it's okay, if I get to slowly, see all these acorns falling, see how it works, see how the underground stuff works, then, I could take a chance on it. So I'd say yes.
What about if I give you an endless supply of Chicken Little Big Burgers and chicken wings?
No, because I'm going to feel like I'm eating this beloved animated character.
Right. So I didn't have to wait in line. Mainly because the thought of a cast member in a giant turkey costume coming anywhere close to me kind of freaks me out. But I didn't have to wait in line too long. 20-minute wait, I'd do it. If I was trying to fill time between a fast pass or something, yeah, I'd do it. But it wouldn't be on my top 10 list of rides to definitely go on when I'm at Disney.
But yeah, thank you for your constructive criticism. I hate to say it, but I'm not going to pursue my dream of building this ride. Instead, I'm going to pursue making Chicken Little 2 and follow a local chicken, which I saw the other day.
So I am pitching another coaster. This one is going to feature in Tomorrowland, which we've already touched on a little bit, known as the Todayland coaster. And this takes a load of inspiration from the 2007 film Meet the Robinsons. So I don't know how many people have seen this film.
Nope.
Ooh.
I like Chicken Little. I also watched this in preparation.
Yeah.
I've watched this now 3 times in 2021.
Wow.
Just to give some context, I've written a little synopsis just to give some context to the people who don't know it. So Lewis is an orphan, cheery for Disney animation as usual. He wants to see what his mother looked like, so he invents a time machine that can translate your memories onto a screen. It's a totally normal and rational response. He takes it to the science fair where a weird child named Wilbur comes to tell him that a man in a bowler hat is going to try and mess with him. The bowler hat guy does, and his invention fails. Lewis decides that he's just a straight-up failure. No one's going to want him. And Wilbur explains that he's here on a mission to find the bowler hat guy and help to restore a safe future. Lewis does not believe that Wilbur is from the future because he's a semi-sane human. So to prove that he's from the future, Wilbur pushes Lewis off the side of a building. and he lands on top of a time machine. And this is sort of where our ride picks up from. So the ride I'm proposing for Meet the Robinsons would take place in Tomorrowland. Currently, there's only one coaster in that area of the park, which is Space Mountain. It's one of the most well-known rides at Disney. It actually features in Meet the Robinsons. So having a second coaster in this area of the park would draw more people to the traditional dark and flat rides that feature there, while also giving them another coaster. The ride would feature 3 chain link sections, several cambering spirals, but resists the urge to invert. I was in uni mode when I wrote this. It makes it a similarly family-friendly coaster to Space Mountain. It also features 2 underground sections, a little bit like Oblivion that we saw earlier, but would be a majority outdoor coaster. So in its design, in Meet the Robinsons, there's a scene where the characters Lewis and Wilbur travel from the past to the future. This features some incredible feats of future engineering, such as the insta-building, travel bubbles, and coaster-like trains. These are all elements I'd love to feature. So the cart could take 2 different forms, either that of the time machine that they travel in, which would be 2 individual seats in a sort of bubble-like ride, or it would be just the standard coaster design in this really gorgeous like purple with rounded edges. Everything's very round in Meet the Robinsons, very much like they are. The pre-show, aka your wait in your queue line, would be featuring loads of broken experiments and inventions from Cornelius Robinson, including the little Doris top hat as a little nod to the bowler hat guy. The outdoor portions of the ride will be predominantly decorated with the future engineering elements, such as this insta-building. It operates as an accordion folding inflatable on a pump that would inflate and deflate as the ride passes. I'd also love to use a bubble machine at several points in the ride to imitate the bubble travel. Basically, people can be put into giant bubbles, travel to where they need to, and be popped at the other end. Towards the end of the ride, the future elements are merged with topiary, which becomes a huge part of the sort of latter half of the film. So we're including a large topiary T-Rex. The return to the dock will be decorated to appear like the front doors of the Robinson residence, with 2 animatronics, one of Spike and one of Dimitri, in the plant pots either side. For the indoor sections and your underground elements, you've got projections, much like those used in Space Mountain. These will be how the Robinsons travel in their home. They're like blue and green pipes. So you're going to get that flashing across as you travel. You've also got these occasional ringed hoops, which Wilbur and Lewis travel through when they're traveling in the time machine. We were talking about music with Run Llama Run. There's a piece for the film called To the Future by Danny Elfman, which I'd really love to use here. Although with coasters, you don't necessarily always need music because you're going pretty fast. You can't always hear it. But I think it'd be really fun to have that incorporated. So when you can, it's just a gorgeous little moment. Finally, we were talking about making money. And I think it would be really cute to have a photo opportunity booth. So where you've had your photo taken on your ride, called the memory scanner. And this is allowing people to keep a picture of their chosen memory. So from their little moment on the ride. Yeah, that is the Todayland coaster.
That's a good point, actually. None of us had the whole, picture on the ride aspect of the, hey, and all that kind of stuff.
And now it's too late for you to include it. It's unique to Emily.
It's a really well thought out idea and design, and you can tell it's because you like this film. I think that's come across in the pictures. Lacking acorn use, but that's just a little personal thing.
Not every ride can feature acorns in quite a wonderful way.
Yeah, I just love the idea of a kid being on this ride and being like, "Mum, somebody just threw an acorn at me." With the carts for this one, did you say they were like the time machine or?
See, I was debating between the two. I think it would just be easier to go for the standard. They've got these little trains that go by in the background, which are these sort of bubble trains almost. They're very round carts-like shapes.
Because when you sort
of train, 4 of those, 2 to a cart. So you have that typical train-like cart shape.
Yeah, because it fits the sort of simplistic design of the future or today land. But when you said train, then I thought that Robinson family who...
Oh, Aunt Billy and her giant train.
Yeah, so then I was like, oh, wait, what are these trains? So, yeah.
I was debating during the underground segment as to whether you have Aunt Billy's train on one side and the guy in the cannon on the other side and you race them.
Yeah.
As another option for, like, projection.
Yeah, and I think the butler would be fun as well, is if you could have, like, a tentacle or something like that and, like, going through, but...
Basically, my thought with it was, do I want it to feature heavily with the characters, or do I want it to be more about the future?
Yeah.
Because most of Tomorrowland is mainly future looking.
Yeah.
It's looking towards like what we could do. And then you've got like the Carousel of Progress as well, which just shows the innovations that we've come to. That's why I decided to steer away from having those character elements apart from Spike and Dimitri, just because it gives a little bit more openness. It's more accessible to everybody, especially if you've not seen the film.
Exactly, because I think it, like you said, because Meet the Robinsons is it's based off a book, isn't it? But it's somewhat inspired from Tomorrowland as well, especially, without any like major spoilers or anything, but like by the end of the film, that's where I was like really impressed. And I was like, oh wow, like this is really linked to like, Walt and to like Disney and all that kind of stuff. So I think that is great because it fits in with the aesthetic of Tomorrowland. And because do you imagine this to be like a giant like looping, like something you would see from afar, like that Hulk roller coaster earlier? You would see it from like, oh my god, look at that roller coaster. Is it like a big one?
It's got high bits that sort of swoop down. There's no inversions. There's no loops or anything. You get some really sharp turns that camber through. But there's no like really big loops or anything. It's still very family friendly.
So when you said about the Robinson family house, you said about the tubes that they travel in. Is that just on the outside, like you see them, or is it like you go inside them?
Essentially, it's when you go underneath, when you go underground.
Oh, right.
There is projections of this sort of bluey green tube-like element around you, essentially.
Okay.
Just gives you that idea if you are going through that tube. It features very like minimally in the film, but it's quite a nice sort of thing to nod to.
You said the start of the ride is basically when they're traveling to the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I haven't seen the film, I'm just trying to wonder like what kind of like colors are we talking about in terms of the effect of traveling through time?
So essentially, my thought is your pre-show is very almost sepia toned. So you've got these broken machines. It's kind of almost macabre in a way. Your docking station on the inside is these sepia brick tones. It's like the inside of Wilbur's bedroom. No, Wilbur Lewis's bedroom. So it's very dark drab. There's not very much to it. And then as you come out, you're going to get much more vibrant colours. So you've got all this gorgeous evergreen topiary. There's just going to be these really gorgeous greens. You're going to have, as you come around, as you go through that first bit, you've got these bright yellow Insta buildings. You've got bubbles, which are going to reflect all that lovely California light. It's just going to be a really nice sort of vibrant element there rather than that traditional, like almost flat pre-show.
It amazes me how Meet the Robinsons isn't spoken about more of being such a good iconic Disney film, because it was one of my favourites growing up, and it just doesn't seem to get enough airtime. Do you think there's a reason for that? It did flop, didn't it?
It only made like 160 million-ish on a budget of 150.
Yeah, it's not the best, and I think the actual idea and the storyline and how they incorporate the futures, it's brilliant. So maybe it's a case of Disney being a bit too far advanced, because it was released in 2007?
Yeah, 2007. Same weekend as Blades of Glory.
It goes to show as well, though, that like Disney is such a generational thing, isn't it? So you guys who are a bit like younger than me and Craig have like grown up on those films. So it does go to show, similar to like Star Wars and things like that it just depends on the generation of Disney that you grew up with. And I think the Chicken Little, Meet the Robinsons, all of those kind of films are very much of that time as well, when they were experimenting with 3D and, you know, departing from 2D. So I think at the time as well, there probably was a bit of a backlash to like, Disney doesn't do 3D, how dare you? And they were also waiting to sort of integrate more with the Pixar sort of side of things, which eventually helped them. Whereas, again, with this, it wasn't kind of like, hey, we're doing Rapunzel. Hey, we're doing the Snow Queen. It was, you know, this like random book. But
A Day with Wilbur Robinson is
that's it.
the book.
Yeah.
Several books.
But I think the music as well, like I loved the, like when as soon as this, like I was about like 5 minutes into the film, I was like, this is Danny Elfman, I'm pretty sure. And I looked it up, I was like, it is. And then once they get to the future, and I was like, this is what Tomorrowland should have been, that, you know, live action film, because it is like a gorgeous piece of music. And you said about, even though you wouldn't hear it on the ride, I think that I could easily hear that on loop throughout the queue and throughout, because I think it would just put you in the zone, and it's such an like eclectic sort of song.
It's one of my new favorite pieces of music. Like, you can tell it's Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
I think I just found my new alarm. I want to wake up to that song every single day.
Yeah.
It's a very charming message to the film as well, isn't it? Because what is it again? This keep moving forward, and again, like that song and that message is about that, and a roller coaster is almost about that as well. Like, keep going forward, you know.
It's a very nice, whimsical track, and it almost makes me forgive Danny Elfman for having anything to do with 50 Shades.
Yeah, which is very bizarre. Why? So we'll go on to Sam Summers' thoughts on Todayland. So Sam said, "You're right that the Tomorrowland section is in need of something a bit more exciting, and Meet the Robinsons is a great choice, as the Tomorrowland aesthetic was such a big influence on that film. You thought through a lot of the logistics here, and there's a lot of fun references to the movie. For some reason, the main thing I remember from that film is a swing band comprised of little frogs wearing tiny suits. I couldn't help but notice they didn't appear in your pitch, which I'm sure must be some kind of mistake. Add a grand finale where the frogs all appear to serenade you, and you're on to a winner."
That is very fair. Frankie and Franny's frogs would be the perfect little adjustment to the end of the ride.
Would you then have a restaurant where you could buy frog?
No.
There's a wonderful shot in that film of like, it's the Tarantino trunk shot with just these frogs in suit.
Okay, that is fairly impressive.
It's incredible. I love it.
Because that film gets dark, like, you know, as well.
Oh,
like,
yeah. All about like found family and feeling abandoned. It's
the villain, especially like when it was going through how he got the way he was, I was like, oh my god, what the hell. So, and I'm glad that you could have easily been influenced by that part of the finale and stuff, where it shows like the alternate future of what could have happened. It's like, you don't want to be going down there again. Why did you do that, Tomorrowland, the live action film? You know, so yeah, I think it sounds really great, and it sounds like a lot of fun, and I can imagine being there, especially that it fits in with the aesthetic. And I think that's the one major problem if you're ever talking about like, oh well, I would put this right here or that. Well, space and logistics is a thing, whereas you can imagine this ride being there.
I'm interested because all of you seem to have gone for like the very closed in approaches. So the idea of just, you know, like the bit going into a building and just how you deal with things there. Yeah. Is there anything very, very quickly that sort of like dissuaded you from taking things like sort of outside of us, outside in terms of scope? Because there's a lot of underground that everyone's sort of like wanting to utilize.
mainly space.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the space that's taken up by the parks in general at the moment. Like, Disney World has something like 52 acres. It's huge. But then in those specific lands, everything's fairly close to each other.
Yeah.
So it's a case of finding space to build these new parks. I thought about this very logistically. So I was just like, if I put a bit underground, I can squish it all together a little bit.
I guess I was thinking more in the way of like how Disney already operates in the way they are, is that a lot of their rides all seem to be dark rides and indoor rides. A lot of them all seem to like occupy inside space, and Disney World and Disneyland is not the kind of place that you would look from a road or like outside and be like, oh wow, I can see that ride, or I can see Megaphobia, that kind of thing. It's never been that kind of theme park. So I thought that, again, keeping it indoors and keeping it more enclosed fitted with that, because I think Disney specifically does that, and they talk about that a lot in like shows and that kind of stuff, is saying that you want to feel like you're in this land. So if you're sat in the Magic Kingdom and then look aside and see a giant roller coaster, well, you're not going to feel like you're at Cinderella's castle. So you have to have more indoor areas for that reason. So again, with Todayland, then it would fit the aesthetic of the future and everything like that, but they would probably have to make sure that there's some sort of castle or wall or something so that you couldn't see that from the adjacent land. So again, I guess with the Emperor's New Groove one is that you could keep it all within the palace and the castle, and it would just look cool and decorative from outside, and you don't know what you're going into as well.
For me, it was more of a case of I wanted to match that part of the film where it goes from being this lovely film about a chicken, very colourful, very sort of family favourite, and then it goes to this dark alien sequence. I wanted to replicate that with the underground part of my coaster, and I think you could have done it up in the sky, because obviously their alien ship is up in the sky. But I just think going underground is like you're at a certain part of this spaceship. You're not actually in it; you're just at a certain part. So that's my reasoning why I chose the underground.
Well, thank you guys. It's been really fun talking all about Disney coasters and everything like that. And like I said, it's really fun because at this time, we can't travel and go on holidays and stuff. So, we can imagine it, but also imagining these franchises as rides, how they can work, because that's how a lot of people are thinking these days. They're saying, I want to have this ride. I want to, see this turned into, this kind of ride. And you got Galaxy's Edge and Star Wars Land and Marvel Land. They're all becoming bigger things, and you're going to see these movies in IMAX, and they're becoming big cinematic experiences. So I think that is very fun to discuss. So let us know at home, which ride would you be taking on? What are your thoughts? What are the pros? What are the cons? Are you going to be winning a golden acorn? Are you going to be going to Chicken Licken? Or let us know, and maybe let us know some of your favorite Disney World or Disneyland rides and your experiences at the theme parks. What ride would you create? But to close things out now, we have a very fun and final challenge in our endgame.
We're in the endgame now.
Okay, endgame time. So the name of this game is Along for the Ride, because David rejected my initial suggestion of I want to ride you like one of your French girls. So we've had a little look at the rides that you want to create. We've had a little look at the rides that already exist, but I want to know how well you can identify rides based on the films that they come from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the name of various rides and attractions at various theme parks across the world. And I want you to tell me what film you think it is based on. In the event that I say X in the name, it's that I've removed the name of the film from it. So just think of X as like the name of the film. Is everyone clear on those rules?
Indeed.
So, Are we ready for number 1? X's Rock and Roll Graveyard Review. And already the guests look as if they're in pain.
Specifying that we aren't looking at Disney anywhere in the world, as in like various.
These can literally be any parks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And therefore could be any franchise or any film. I just want to remind people that I'm looking for the name of the film or film franchise you're looking for, which is great. So, small spoiler: both of you are. Kelly, what was your answer?
See, I was going for like King Boo from Mario.
Okay, so you
from Nintendo.
And Stephen?
I just went with Johnny Bravo because I feel like it would fit the
I at least
I don't know.
They have made a Super Nintendo world, so at least Kelly was like had some sort of line of thinking there.
So I can tell you that the full name of the ride is Beetlejuice's Rock and Roll Graveyard Review.
Good. That's a good ride.
Why Johnny Bravo? I don't understand. Like after hearing that.
What's it got to do with graveyard?
Is hair or something? Is it?
It's because that Rocky Roll is a cool cat, and the graveyard might have just I don't know. Johnny Bravo came to mind.
It's a great place for Johnny to pick up women.
I now have this image of Johnny Bravo being like, "Hey, baby, I know you just lost somebody in your life, but I can replace them for you." Number 2. Borg Assimilator. Stephen going for a very confident early type, and Kelly still considering.
Me being like, I don't know what. this could be.
I will also ask David if he thinks he knows the answers. He's also free to message me. So, Stephen has gone for Tron. Kelly has gone for Alien. Stephen? Kelly? David has gone for... What's the right answer, David?
Star Trek. The Borg is like a villain in Star Trek, isn't it?
Yeah. So it is a Star Trek inspired ride.
Wow.
I'm not a Trekkie, guys, for shame.
Are you sure about that?
I've watched Big Bang Theory. That's my qualification.
Number 3. Dragon Challenge.
Oh, no, I do know this one.
Okay. Let's just address Stevens right away. So after hearing the criticism we gave him for talking about Johnny Bravo when I specifically said film franchises, what did you go for, mate?
I went for Dragon's Den because I feel like they need something like this in their lives.
Just
I
a
don't
roller
imagine
coaster
what that
car.
ride would be.
Just like Theopathitis' mouth or something. You like go inside it, and, you know. Like...
It's a drop ride.
I'm just a bit worried about the main motif of that show being, and that for that reason, I'm out. I just have this idea of them ejecting people from the coaster.
I feel like it's a drop ride and you're just in the lift.
Yeah.
And then
Kelly, what answer did you go for?
I went for Harry Potter.
Okay. Is it Harry Potter?
Woo.
It is. Can you tell me specifically which film?
It is the Goblet of Fire.
Yeah, it's
I
Goblet
get
of
bonus
Fire.
point.
No, because I prompted you. I prompted
Damn
that.
it. Damn it.
Do I get half a point for creativity?
You'd be getting points left, right, and centre, mate.
If only life works like that. If only. So I dread to think what Steven's going to come up for this one, given that he's already used Dragon's Den, because we now go to Dragon Gliders. Okay.
Equally bad, I imagine.
Kelly has gone for Kung Fu Panda. Stephen has gone for Thunderbirds. Kelly?
I imagine.
Stephen?
So.
Take it home.
And David has sent me Avatar, which is also incorrect.
Thought so.
You're all going to kick yourselves. It's How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh,
Of course it is.
Do you know what?
I had the right studio.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like an animation, and I was like, what animation has it? I was like, Fern Gully? I was like, no, that's fairies.
I was going to put American Dragon, which was like a Disney XD series.
Oh, I know
like
American Dragon.
American
Like,
Dragon.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
good.
I'm losing the will to live with you guys. Come on. Number 5. Enchanted Along. Enchanted Along.
We're gonna throw a wild one out there
The tension of typing.
because I don't
Oh
know
my
it.
life.
I don't know it, and I'm just like, that would be fun.
Okay. Stephen has gone for The Wizard of Oz,
Reasonable choice.
but unfortunately incorrect. Kelly, what did you go for?
I went with Barbie and the Nutcracker.
To be fair, they do have like a Thomas the Tank Engine land somewhere, so maybe that could...
They do.
Yeah.
Barbie doesn't have a land yet, and I think she should.
She should have a world.
David, what did you go for?
I went for a very lazy answer, but could be right. Enchanted.
Again, I feel it's one you may be kicking yourselves because our main man, Dr. Sam, wrote a book about this guy.
Oh, Shrek.
Oh.
What's the name of it again?
Enchanted Along.
Oh, okay.
That's a really bad name for a Shrek ride.
Yeah, so they do have Shrek 4D as well, so I wonder what that one's all about.
Hello, this is a Craig edit as mandated by David. Turns out when I've been saying Enchanted Along, I meant to say Enchanted Airways, but my handwriting is really bad, so apparently that needed to be corrected. This is what I get for criticising David about being apprehensive, not reprehensive, isn't it? God damn it.
Number 6. The Grand Fiesta Tour starring X. And I feel bad because this is the one I considered hard.
I feel like this is just going to be one of those obscure celebrity rides, so that's what I'm...
So, I will say both have answered. Stephen, yet again, going for something which isn't a film. Who did you go for, mate?
I was just thinking this might be based on a celebrity's life, so I just went Craig David because that was the first thing that came to my head. I can't really explain why. He's a legend, so we'll just stay Craig David.
I think there's a more obvious answer of why he thought that, like when you have somebody called Craig and David sat in front of you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Kelly, what is your answer?
I think it's the three Calabros? I don't know what the spelling is, but...
It is indeed the Three Caballeros.
There we
and
go.
David has also sent me Three Caballeros and also just saying Donald Duck.
Yeah, well, because
Because he's the only member of the Three Caballeros that anyone can mention, because everyone apparently is racist and doesn't know Spanish.
But is the ride actually called With the Three Caballeros?
Starring the Three Caballeros.
Oh, okay, I'm glad for them, because I didn't want Disney to be like, well, Donald's the only one they know, so we'll just put that in the ride name. Like, oh, poor.
Donald's the only one who matters.
Yeah.
So we now come on to number 7. X. Cosmic Rewind.
I went Logic.
I'd like to point out that Craig David had a song called Rewind, but I will not mention it again.
He did.
Look, you can say Craig David all you want once the guy's had a film.
They're not a Craig David documentary?
Every time he does a live show, it's a film.
That's a stretch.
You are not helping your cause, mate. Okay. Stephen has gone for the very reasonable Star Wars. Kelly has gone for the very reasonable Back to the Future. David has gone for the unreasonable Danny Phantom.
Because Steve said Johnny Bravo, I just had cartoons in my head.
Danny Phantom Cosmic Rewind would be amazing.
There is like a Nickelodeon land somewhere, so it could have
Yeah, but he has nothing to do with space. He's a ghost.
cosmic entities, I don't know.
The correct answer is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was called like Mission Breakout or something.
That is a separate attraction.
Oh.
They have 2.
Yeah, how many do they need?
What kind of fan are you, David?
I only know the one where they like redesigned Tower of Terror.
Okay, so we're halfway through the game and the scores are Kelly is on 2, Stephen is here.
It's playing.
Next up, Honeypot Spin.
Know this one.
Okay, I'm going to start with David's first, which is unusual.
Oh,
David, tell the nice.
I just knew that everyone else would go with this, so I was like, I'll just go for something stupid then. For Honey Boo Boo.
Okay, Kelly and Stephen have both gone for the same answer. Who did you go for?
Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh.
Yes, come on.
Also, Dave, a better joke answer would have been the Bee Movie.
Yeah, see, I was in my mind, I was just like, honey, what's things with honey? I was like, Honey Boo Boo. I was like, why have I thought this?
I'm going to give an opportunity for a bonus point. Stephen.
Yo.
Because I feel sorry for you. How did they spell honey? Actually, both of you, message it to me in the chat. How do you think they spelt honey? Okay, so Stephen, how did they spell honey?
So I think they might have just gone a bit different and gone H-U-N-N-Y.
Yep, that is indeed how they spelt it. So that's a bonus point for both of you because Kelly messaged it to me too.
I did indeed.
Next up, Incredi Coaster.
Can we say Dragon's Den again?
If you genuinely want to keep hemorrhaging points, go for it, mate. Like.
I think this one is good.
All right, Kelly, who did you go for?
The Incredibles.
Stephen, who did you go for?
The Incredibles.
Incredibly, you are both correct. It is The Incredibles.
I had a moment of like, is it? Like double checking myself, being like, is it actually?
Yeah, I was going to mention that one when I was saying about how Pixar's taken over earlier because they changed California Adventure to be more Pixar-like, and that was like just the generic Mickey roller coaster, and they were like, yep, Incredibles now.
Next up, Pandemonium.
revising an earlier answer.
Same with me. I started wrong, but you know what I mean.
So, just saying, Kelly put Kung Fu Panda. Stephen messaged me Kung Fu Pananda. And then very, very quickly changed it to Panda. Both of you are. It's indeed Kung Fu Panda. Next up, we have the Silly Swirly.
Ooh.
Back onto the more trickier ones.
The Silly Swirly.
Who knows?
Okay. Stephen, who did you go for?
I went for Cat in a Hat.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Kelly, who did you go for?
I went for ants.
Again, I don't remember a toilet scene, but I could probably see it. David, what did you go for?
I went for War of the World.
All right. David is definitely. Kelly, you are. Stephen?
Ah.
The answer is Despicable Me.
Oh.
Okay.
There is like a Dr. Zeus land in Universal as well, so that was a decent guess there.
Yeah, I think they're all reasonable guesses, to be fair.
Apart from mine. I'm playing to win.
All right, next up, we have King Julian's Beach Party Go Around.
There is definitely a themed land somewhere in the world.
King Julian's Beach Party Go Around.
What a long name.
But is it worth it?
We won't know for a while.
Okay. Stephen, who did you go for?
Madagascar.
Kelly, who did you go for?
Madagascar.
Answer, who did you go for? Madagascar! Now we come on to the final question. So we've briefly mentioned this as one which is being rebranded. So we're going to want the original film, Splash Mountain.
Ooh.
It suddenly got very tense.
Yeah.
The Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music is playing like...
The final question.
Yeah.
Okay. Kelly, who did you go for?
Song of the South.
Stephen, who did you go for? You
Indiana
can't chicken.
Jones.
I was about to say you were silent then, as if like I have screwed up your. I don't know if I can say this. So you've gone for Indiana Jones. Kelly, you are. It is Song of the South, and not as David messaged me, Songs of the South.
There's a few songs.
There are a few. We can't play any of them.
No.
Okay, and that is the end of this end game. So looking at the scores, in a respectable battle, we have Stephen with 5, but the winner is Kelly with 8.
Yay.
How did I get 5? I don't even know.
And Kelly's first endgame win, I think, as well.
My
isn't
first endgame win. I'm quite
Good.
proud of that.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Well done. And especially, which is good, after Steve beat me. So, it's, you can't even say that Steve's on like a losing streak. He was on a winning streak as well. So well done.
You beat a feared opponent today, Kelly. You did well. You did well.
This won't affect our friendship.
I mean, it won't, but let's just work together to try and make the Dragon's Den film. I feel like with all backing, I could really make it happen.
I feel like we could. I feel like between us, there's an idea there.
Thank you guys for joining us. This has been a really fun episode, and we hope that everyone else at home had a lot of fun listening to our pitches and all the craziness that went. Craig, did you have the lunacy that you wanted?
Oh, pretty much, yeah. I'm satisfied.
As soon as Disney animals are up on the menu, Craig's lunacy box is checked. So, thank you guys. It's been loads of fun. Kelly, where can we catch you? Where should people go to?
Yeah, over on Twitter, at Kelly Lou Bishop. Same on Instagram. I'm posting a lot of film and TV content over on my Twitter at the minute. And I'm still writing for Fresh Take as well. I'm going to get some things up in the future.
Awesome. We look forward to it. And Steve, what about yourself?
Yo, so guys, you can catch me on Instagram at sjonesalist, and then you can catch me on Twitter at unknownsteve. I'm also a writer for Empora, where we're doing an issue on Scotland this month about everything great about that country. And also, I'm a writer for Fresh Take. You can catch Cling Film, which will be out next week. And yeah, just plenty more stuff to come in the future.
Well, we can't wait to see what you've got planned, Steve. But thank you once again to all of our guests. Go check out Kelly and Steve on all of their socials and on freshtakehub.com. And thank you as well to Dr. Sam Summers, who provided the feedback for all of our ride pitches. You can catch him with Ben Travis over on Disnivirsity. That's the Disnivirsity Podcast, which you can catch on all good podcast outlets and at Disnivirsity on all major socials as well. So yeah, you can catch us at Well Good Movies on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. You can catch us on freshtakehub.com/wellgoodmovies. And please do let us know, what are your favorite ride pitches? Which one would you want to ride? What ride would you pitch yourself? What are your favorite Disney rides? And what are your favorite movie and ride tie-ins? We want to know. We've had loads of fun today. Thank you once again to everyone. Lots of fun with Run Llama Run, Acorn Ascension, and Todayland. And yeah, Craig, anything lastly from yourself?
Whoa! Whoa! Yeah.
How did I know you're going to do that? So yeah, thank you very much, guys, and we'll catch you in the future. Or is it today? Bye.
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 Hey.
Don't throw up.